Welcome, everybody. So great to see everybody tonight. I'm Glenn Ruga, the founder and director of the Social Documentary Network. And it's always so great to see so many people from so many parts of the country and often from parts of the world attend these programs. And please let us know where you're Zooming from. So the chat's open. Just say hello and let us know where you're from. And welcome to the first program of SCN's 2025 Visual Storytelling Festival. Tonight's program is on Black birth in America and also a celebration of Black History Month. And over the course of the next 2.5 months, we will have 10 panels similar to this one on topics as diverse as the war in Ukraine, artificial intelligence and visual storytelling, climate action, and the state of America today. And of course, this panel. And we'll also have one in-person panel with Rania Matar at the Leica Gallery in Boston on May 7th, for those of you who are in New England or the Boston area. The festival will also include the SDN Documentary Photography Portfolio Reviews on April 5th. And this is a great opportunity for photographers to meet and show your portfolio to leading editors, publishers, and curators. Information about the SDN reviews is on our website. And the festival will conclude with an exhibition of the ZEKE Award winners at Photoville on June 7th. So those of you in the New York area or who can travel to New York, we hope to see you at Photoville then. And you can find information on all of SDN's programs on the SDN website at www.socialdocumentary.net. And we're so grateful to the sponsors for the SDN Speaker Series this year, Leica USA and Digital Silver Imaging from Belmont, Massachusetts. So I really want to thank Leica and DSI for their support. Tonight, we're so pleased to have with us two outstanding photographers and a world-renowned expert on maternal health to join us in a conversation on Black birth. We're also grateful, so grateful to have all of you here today to join in this conversation. And towards the end, we'll have a question and answer period, and we hope that you'll have questions and comments. The moderator for tonight's program is Lisa DuBois, an outstanding photographer, curator, photo editor, and SDN diversity advisor. So now let me turn us over to Lisa DuBois.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, Social Documentary Network pays tribute to the legacy of Black photographic excellence. In 2025, the importance of Black photographers telling their own stories has never been greater. This year, during Black History Month, we proudly celebrate the contributions of Benita Mayo and Brian Branch Price for excellence in documentary photographic storytelling on Black birth. Their work transcends the act of capturing moments. It serves as a lens through which histories are preserved and cultures are honored. These images provoke thought, inspire action, and stand as a testament to the enduring power of photography to shape how we see the world from the perspective of those who actually live it. Through their photography, Benita and Brian illuminate narratives that might otherwise be overlooked, ensuring that Black voices and experiences are not just seen, but truly understood. We also have a very special guest with us, renowned midwife, Jennie Joseph. Jennie is very active in the field of maternal health, particularly regarding social and ethnic birthing disparities. She is one of 12 women to be honored by Time Magazine's Women of the Year in 2022. Jennie would like to fix the Black maternal mortality crisis one midwife at a time. And we will learn more about Jennie later on in the program. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Brian Branch Price, who is a documentary photographer based in New York. His work includes photojournalism, fine art, and street photography. Tonight, he will present some of his work featured in this issue of ZEKE magazine on Black childbirth. He is also the photographer and author of a book titled The Original Cowboy, an American Institution. So now I would like to present Brian Branch Price.
Greetings, everyone, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate that. Can we see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got to go ahead and share it.
I got to share it. That's sharing. All right, let's see. Here go. Wish me luck again. We made it, huh?
Yay!
All right. All right, should I talk about how the story came about or just talk about the photographs? I'll lead off.
Definitely let us know how it came about.
Okay, so it took a bit. I think I was in a church service in 2018, 2017. A pediatrician came in and talked about Black maternal health. And I was trying to catch up to her ever since. I never caught up to this woman. So the story kind of sat on the shelf. And then I'm on a Newark, New Jersey mayor's press release. So they send out these press releases almost every day. And so there's one press release dealt with Black maternal health. I think it was called a maternity conference. So I just walked in there one day and met several people who were one woman had already given birth, but most people were about to give birth. And this woman here was seeing a photograph. He was 8 months pregnant. I said, "No, I don't have a lot of time to work with this." But she was. I just sat there and told her what I wanted to do. Told her my concern about the health of Black women and the children, and told her it doesn't affect them. It not only affects them, it affects the men too, because they're all part of the family there. So she was delighted that I would sit down and talk to her about this, and so she opened up. She gave me a phone number. She gave me all the information I needed to meet with her. So obviously it moved pretty fast. I think we met in December, and by February 2nd, the baby was ready to come on out. So this photograph here are the parents. On the left is Malcolm. He's the father, of course, and then Kashina. She's first-time mother. So we met in her pediatrician's office in Maplewood, New Jersey. And it took 2 meetings, we'll get to that, to meet with the midwife and the doctor, because they were still trying to figure things out, or the legalities and everything like that. So that's what this photograph about. Of course, that's the sonogram, and Malcolm's happy. Kachina is the first-time mother. I believe she is a social worker. She told me, I don't have an exact title. But we're going to move on to the next slide. We're right here. We're in the birthing room. And so Malcolm is helping her out, getting it situated. There's a nurse there helping her get all the wires together, sonogram. And the funny thing was, I was on my way to North Carolina. And they called. I was leaving about 2:00 in the morning. They called me at 12. She said, Brian, you got to come to the hospital. So I said, I stopped my trip from going to North Carolina at night. So, here's Malcolm assisting Kashina. So as I explained earlier in a brief conversation with Glenn and the gang, I photographed my children being birthed, and things have changed so much in 20 years. There wasn't a lot of massaging, a lot of physical connectivity with the other partner. Now, with the doulas and new birthing methods, there's a lot of contact that I noticed. So I wanted to share that with everyone.
Can you tell people who don't know what a doula is?
They're not midwives, but they're like coaches, and they do a lot of medicinal practices with oils and incense and touching and feeling, and they make the birthing process a little more easy. It takes the stress off the birthing mother, and of course the father who's there too. Kachina's in this position relieving her stress and the things she's going through. If you look in the lower, you can see Malcolm's boots in the lower left-hand corner. In the lower right-hand corner is the ball. I forgot what it's, an athletic ball you can stand on in the gym, but they encourage the birthing mothers to sit on this to help with the process with the contractions. And so there's a lot of these gym pieces in the birthing room. At this point, Kachina don't have anything to do with Malcolm. Women when they go through the birthing process, it's like, you can touch me now, but you can't touch me here and there. So she said, just leave me alone, let her go through her own process. Again, they're just kind of figuring things out, looking at the monitors. She's got her diodes and things on her. So funny thing about this, you may not be able to see Kachina's here, the nurse to the right, and Malcolm sitting in front of her. But when we were in her doctor's office, she swore up and down he was going to do a natural birth. She didn't want any epidural or nothing. And I said, okay. But for whatever reason, she said, please give me the epidural. And so behind her is the doctor giving the epidural. I forgot who the gentleman is, the other doctor on the left, and that happens at times. Sometimes you can go through that natural birth, and sometimes, please. And I had some issues too in surgery too. And I said, please give me the epidural. I don't want to feel this thing. For another surgery I had years ago. So that's what's happening here. So this is the whole birthing thing. And I want to share with you guys something about her birthing time. And I'm going to get to that shortly. I'm sorry about that, folks. Let me, should I just X out of that? This is our doula.
Can you just rotate it?
Yeah, hold on there.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. All right. Come back. Okay, this is our doula. She's rubbing her feet, massaging her. She was there through the whole process. They didn't allow too many people in. There was no video, but I did audio. I'm not sharing the audio with you guys tonight, but I did audio. I had some Rode mics on there, and just film. I'm sorry, we did 2 digital cameras. All right, hold on, Glenn. I'm coming, Glenn. Bear with me. Okay, so here we are, excitement. Baby is out. Baby Choice's name, Choice, CHOYCE. I think that's how we spell it. This is the midwife birthing the baby. The nurse to her left. Malcolm, of course, all smiles. The doula to the far right. So I can't remember the number. I think they said situation 2 or 3. I don't remember what the number was, but it was a situation where she was bleeding still after birthing the baby. So they were making sure they were taking care of her with her excessive bleeding. This is Malcolm cutting the cord for the baby. Baby's almost in her arms. The doula's to the right. They had planned to bury the umbilical cord in the other part in the backyard. I forgot what they told me that was for, but that's what the plan was, and maybe our midwife can tell me about that. And this is Kachina, with her moment with Baby Choice, and she predicted 3 hours, and like I said, they called me at 12, and when she started her contractions, when she dilated or whatever, baby came out in 3 hours. There were small contractions, until she dilated, but once it started rolling, he was out in 3 hours, and that was her first time. And usually, from my experience or knowledge, birthing's a little longer than that. But and that's Kachina and Choice, and then I followed up with them about a couple weeks later to see how they were doing. This is a little over a year ago. I called them on his birthday. I think it's his second Groundhog Day, and she was so happy I called her because when you get involved with your subject matters, it's good to stay in touch with them. And I told them I'll be back sometime this year to photograph his progress. And I said I might as well stick to it as long as I can to see his progress as he grows. And that's the end of the story I can share with you guys.
That's great. Thank you.
All right.
Shall we move on?
Well, why don't we see if
Oh,
take one or two questions from the audience if people have anything to ask before we move on. So if you have a question from the audience now, just go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead and ask it. And we don't have to. I mean, we could just move on if nobody has any questions. I know everybody's always shy about asking the first question.
Yeah, ask away, ask away. We're all right here.
Brian,
Well,
some of these pictures I'm seeing for, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Obviously, everything turned out okay, but you did mention that she had excessive bleeding.
Yes.
Is that right? Do they know what that was a result of, or?
I didn't get that information, but it lasted a good 10 to 15 minutes. So they called extra medical team in to help stop the bleeding. But she was awake and she was more concerned about the baby. And the medical team, they were good. They did what they needed to do to stop the excessive bleeding. And yeah, I was thinking about 15 minutes, but by the time it normalized.
Glad it was a happy ending.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I have some more information about after her birth. Should I tell them about that now, Glenn, or later?
what do you mean after the birth? Like,
She was going through some issues as a first-time mother, postpartum. It took her 4 or 5, 6 months to take it all in. And after the end of 6 months, she saw a therapist. In 6 months, she got herself back to the realization of motherhood and getting out of the depression. I didn't talk to her, get quotes, but I followed her on Instagram, and she made notes of being a first-time mother and the pressure of what I have to do. So I found this can be common with first-time mothers, especially single parents. So she lives with her mother. At that time, lived with her mother and an older brother. So that's another issue. I'm assuming that's another issue with the birthing, and maybe our midwife can talk about that later.
All right. Well, thank you, Brian. Really, those are amazing pictures.
Yes.
Some of these I'm seeing for the first time. They weren't in ZEKE magazine. I wish they were.
Thanks, Glenn. I appreciate it. Boy, I'm trying to get the edit together, Glenn.
editing is not an easy thing sometimes.
Yes,
Editing
thank you,
out
Lisa.
photos that you want to show, it's not always that easy. So now we're going to move on. So next we have Benita Mayo.
I'm sorry. Lisa, can you hear me? I'm sorry. I was trying to unmute myself. I do have a question for Brian because he just made a statement and I just want clarification. He said,
Come on in.
Hi, this is Sharetta Ramiki and I'm from Florida. But I have a
Hey,
question.
Sher.
It said that she was going through the depression as a single mother. So did the father, is he not around anymore or is he not parenting with her?
I didn't get those details, but when during the 45 days I was with them, they didn't live together, and they were having some communication back and forth. I think one quote I have from her is that he's still realizing there's a baby in his stomach, and she said, "Well, you better get with it because this is happening." So I thought that was funny at one point, but he at the time was on hands when I was there photographing an interview. He was on hands for the whole year, I don't know what the activity was. When I photographed him at the house, he came over and she was there with her older brother and her mother. So I don't know what the hands-on was with the baby. With the Instagram, she was always pictured with the baby. So I don't know if they're still together or not.
Okay,
They could very well be, but I don't have those details.
yeah, and thank you for highlighting even the father's presence during the birthing process, because a lot of
I'm sorry,
times,
say that again.
I'm sorry, can you hear me better now? It's better?
Yes.
Okay, I was saying thank you for having the pictures with the father involved in the birthing process, because a lot of time that narrative is left out. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much. I'll follow up with an email. I'll reach out to him, but he's in the community, so I'm just assuming there's still he's hands on, but I don't have those details to confirm with you right now.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Lisa, why don't we move on here?
Okay. So next we're going to present Benita Mayo, who is a visual artist based in Charlottesville, Virginia. She's an active member of the Charlottesville Black Arts Collective and a resident artist at the McGuffey Art Center. Her work has been exhibited at various galleries in the US, including the Center for Fine Art Photography. Mayo was the winner in the 23rd Julia Margaret Cameron Award for Women Seeing Women category and received honorable mention for the portraiture category. She is featured in this issue of ZEKE magazine for her work focusing on Black birth, and will share some of those images with us this evening and tell us a little bit about herself and her work. So with that, I turn it over to Benita.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Glenn, for putting this in motion. And thank you, everybody, for being here tonight at 7 o'clock on a work night. As Lisa said, my name is Benita Mayo. I'm based in Charlottesville, Virginia. My entry into this work is a little bit different than Brian's. I'll go ahead and share my screen as I start to tell you my story. So there were a couple of synchronicities that happened for me. I moved back to Charlottesville, Virginia. I met an amazing friend who shared with me that she was a doula. COVID happened. In the midst of all of that, I'm reading this benign article and I discover that Serena Williams and Beyonce Knowles both had complicated births. And I'm thinking to myself, that is so crazy. Who knows their bodies more than Serena Williams and Beyonce Knowles? So it kind of took me on this path. So COVID happened. I had become interested in becoming a doula. The Birth Sisters of Charlottesville were starting a training session. And I decided that, this is something that I wanted to do. In conjunction with that, I discovered that Black women are 3 to 5 times more likely to have complications with birth than white women. Again, I'm thinking this is 2020. Why is this happening? And then in Virginia, where I'm based, Black women's risk of complications is double that of white women. So it took me on a path. Then I was fortunate enough to receive some funding from a fellowship to do a project that was centered within the community. And again, with my interest in becoming a doula and what I had just learned about Black women and what it's like to be a Black woman giving birth, I decided that I was going to do a photo essay highlighting the Black maternal health crisis, but not just highlighting it, but to show that there is options for positive outcomes. And that option rests in the hands of community-based doulas. And so my project, this was my first client. I'm sorry. This was my first client. And I was a trainee at this time. And my friend, whose name is Doreen, she was my mentor, and we'll see her in a little bit. But my client's name is Michaela, and she's the mom of 3 little ones. And so this was a home visit that I did while she was pregnant. So Michaela and her husband learned that she was pregnant in the pandemic. And Michaela was very specific, very confident in how she wanted this birth to go. She had utilized the doula services for her 3rd birth. And so she knew that she wanted to do the same for this one. So she had a birth plan. She had it all planned out, which I'll share with you as we go along. And again, this is an image doing one of the home visits of her pregnancy. I was really fortunate to be able to accompany Michaela and her family to the midwife appointments. And one of the things I really, really loved about getting to know Michaela and working with her is that she involved all of her children in the process. This young man is her oldest one, and he was there at the midwife's appointment. And then her other 2 came in later along with her husband. So it really was a family affair. And because I think sometimes it can be scary for the child that's here. I can reflect on my own when I knew that I was going to have a brother. I wasn't too happy about that. So I love how she included everybody in the process. And this is her son at the midwife's appointment. And at this point, she asked him if he wanted to feel the baby's head and feel the baby. And so that's what they're doing. And we're measuring to see how far along we are. So this is a little bit after the birth, but it's really quite interesting how all of this came to be. So I get the call on July 11th, well, July 10th. It was before midnight, right before midnight, when I get the call that Michaela's going into labor. And we live in a rural area. So I get in my car, it's night, and I'm driving around the narrow country road. And I get this really nervous feeling in my belly. And my hands are shaking. But I remember this isn't about me, right? I am here to support Michaela. So I get to Michaela's home, and as soon as I pull up, there's nothing but like 11 cars in the driveway. I walk into the home, and there is love and family and friends. Everybody that Michaela had on as part of her birth plan was there. And when I walked in, she was already active in labor. And so what you're seeing now is after the baby, and you can see all around. If you go from left to right, we have her sister, her mother-in-law, her son, her mom, and then her husband cradling her and Chloe in the bed. Oops. So this is the photo that was selected to be on the cover of the 20th issue of ZEKE magazine. And this, to me, is a really pivotal image. As you can see, Michaela's holding Chloe. So she's had her already. But what she's doing here is delivering the afterbirth. And I think this is a part of the process that is a little unknown to people. But you actually have to deliver the afterbirth just like you do the baby. And if you don't, there can be major complications. And again, I go back to my own experience. My birth coming into this world was a traumatic birth. I was born, they sent my mom home thinking everything was okay. And within just a few hours, my mom started to hemorrhage. And so they rushed her back to the hospital. She needed a blood transfusion. And what had happened, they didn't allow her to deliver the afterbirth. So there's so many things that happen in the doctor's office that we take for granted that, they should be protecting us. But quite honestly, we have to be our own advocates. And that's part of what, having a community-based doula will do for you. They are your coach. They are your advocate. They can sometimes be your counselor. And I can just speak to my experience with Birth Sisters in Charlottesville. So this is a really important image for me for multiple reasons. And I love how her husband, Zach, is there behind her, giving her the support she needs, because this part of the process is it can be just as painful and traumatic as the other. And so this is afterwards, and this is her doula, Doreen, my friend, who was also my mentor during this process. Michaela has been up already. And so what Doreen did, she gave her water, she comforted her, she gave her warm food, because warm food is something that's recommended after birth. It helps the healing process. So coming from a woman who's never given birth, a lot of this was new to me, but it was exciting and scary all at the same time. So Michaela obviously has given birth at this point, and she's gone to the restroom, she's cleaned herself up, and you can see she has help not only from her doula, but she has help from the midwife's assistant. So there's lots of support that she is being given. And so this is Chloe. Just like in a hospital setting, the midwife is, doing the tests that need to be done, weighing the baby, getting the mucus out of the airways, and then that's Dad looking on. And then this is after everything. So the other mom that's part of this project is Shauna. Shauna is totally different. Shauna is a storyteller at heart. She is a professor who teaches Black studies at the university. Again, educated, has health insurance, has all the things that you would expect that would guarantee a positive outcome. Yet Shauna herself, with her children that she had before this one, she wasn't satisfied with the service that she got. And even with this birth, she had a complication because of the thyroid. And she had to be an advocate for herself in that case. She wanted to have a home birth, but because of some complications that happened, she ended up having her baby at the hospital. But yet and still, this is her doula. And this is what you're seeing here is the intake form. So the doulas go into the home, they do an intake form to, understand what the mom and what the family wants. And so this is essentially, this is my story. Anybody have any questions?
So, Benita, I'm curious about you mentioned community doulas. Is that so? That's fabulous. I have not heard of that. Yeah, no, I'm curious about it. How does that work?
Well, the community-based doula, and I may have to bring a doula on to explain it a little better than I can, but just like with anything, you can Google doula on the internet, and you can get someone that you can pay $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, whatever, to be your personal coach, right? Not everyone can afford that. The community-based doulas, these moms, this is a service that they don't have to pay for. I know specifically in Virginia, there was a big push for Medicaid to kick in with some of that. I haven't stayed abreast of where that is within the, within the legislature. But of course, now with what's happening with the federal government, we don't know where that Medicaid support is going to end up. But the community-based doula allows it to be accessible to everyone, not just someone who has the means to pay the money.
Yeah. No, I think it's wonderful because midwifery and doulas make all the difference in birthing for a woman, and to have it accessible like that is just fabulous.
What was really interesting, Margaret, I said I decided I wanted to do the training, but if anybody knows me, I usually leap first and think second. And I don't think I really knew exactly what I was getting into. I mean, I'm also a yoga and meditation teacher. So I know and I enjoy and I'm comfortable in the space of holding space for others, right? And I was feeling a bit nervous. And, Doreen, she knows me very well. And she and I, over a course of a couple of conversations, she coached me. And she's like, it's just like when you are sitting in front of your yoga class, you're holding space. You're here to hold space for these moms and support them in whatever they need. So, because of, babies come when babies come, right? And I do, I work a 9 to 5. And so I wish I could be more involved on the birth doula process. But what I'm hoping to transition to is the postpartum end of it, because it's a bit more something I can plan around with working, but it really, really falls in my wheelhouse when it comes to yoga and meditation, breathing, and just being able to give the moms the support they need after the fact, not just when you get to the happy ending. So
right. Because for a lot of moms, unfortunately, the happy ending isn't always a happy ending.
Exactly.
Postpartum is really, it's a very real
Exactly.
thing. Yeah.
And that was one of the things that Shauna discovered during her process. I mean, she's educated. She knows how to solve problems because she has a PhD, and she, gave birth to babies while she was doing her master's and her PhD work. And yet, and still, when she was experiencing postpartum depression, no one recognized it. She didn't know what was happening. So it just goes to show you, you never assume. And I'm just happy that this exists and that it's accessible to everyone.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great program. Thank you for sharing it.
Thanks, Margaret.
Benita, I wanted to know why does Virginia have such a terrible rate?
It's not just Virginia, Georgia.
Oh, I thought you said that they had 20% more.
No, what I said was in Virginia, Black women have double the rate of white women.
Oh.
But it's a nationwide statistic. Nationwide is 3 to 5 times more likely to have complications in pregnancy. And, some of the reasons why, and I'll go back to Serena Williams. Serena Williams was still in the hospital and she was telling her doctors that she was having trouble breathing. And her doctors were like, oh, no, this is what happens when you have a baby. And she's like, I don't think so. And come to find out, she had an embolism. And had they not caught it, it could have traveled and it could have killed her.
Yeah.
And so what we're finding, what's happening in the doctor's office is doctors aren't listening to Black and brown women. They assume that we have a higher pain ratio than we do, and they're not believed. And I know Jennie can speak to this much better than I can, but this is just a little bit of information that I gleaned in my experience working on this project. And I can really say with great pride that here in Charlottesville, the Black Black the Birth Sisters of Charlottesville, I mean, what they have been contributed to the community is really, really, truly amazing. Because they not only provide the doula support, they provide postpartum support. There is a lactation arm to the organization. They haven't lost a mom. They did have one infant death. But what I also learned just recently, which I think is really interesting, is a piece of this process that people probably never even thought of is that there's even vicarious trauma to the doulas who are supporting these women. And so that's something to take into consideration. They at the Birth Sisters of Charlottesville, they have a house basically. And when you go in, they have a room that the moms can go in and they can purchase items. And it's called the Welcome Womb Boutique. So if they need blankets, diapers, clothes, because you know how quickly babies grow. So, you can donate to that. They also have a gift card program that they do. And this is just in one city, in one state. There are community-based doulas across the US. So this is just the one that holds my heart. So
Thank you.
Oh, the items are free from the boutique. My mistake. Thanks, Doreen. Any other questions? I think we have maybe 5 more minutes.
Well, we have time at the very end for a longer Q&A as well. So
okay,
we should move on now and then come back to more questions.
Okay, thanks, Glenn.
Thank you. Thank you.
So our next guest is Jennie Joseph. Jennie is a renowned midwife, and her experience can give us a very unique perspective on the photography work that we've seen here tonight. Her advocacy and innovative approach to maternal and child health has made her a presence in public policy as well. Her focus and drive is to ensure that Black women and other marginalized women remain safe and empowered inside of a broken maternity health system. And it is precisely this work that led to Jennie being named as one of the 12 women in Time Magazine Women of the Year list for 2022. So with that, I would like to bring Jennie into the conversation and have her comment on the work we've seen here tonight and add her perspective and anything else she would like for us to know.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And thank you, Glenn, Brian, and Benita. I'm really, really glad to be able to be here tonight. First of all, I want to mention something as we're speaking and finishing out the session tonight. Really, please have your questions ready too. I just want us all to tap into what we feel when we see this beautiful art, the photography, what that evokes for us. And I like to sort of kind of name that so we all are on the same page here, because that's where that oxytocin shows up, right? Oxytocin is that hormone that comes up that has a cute baby, a triumphant mom, a proud father. That those feelings come up, and we're just looking at the photos, right? So being in the presence of that is something to be really, really cherished. It's such a beautiful opportunity and an honor to be at the time that some new being comes earthside. So my work, I've been doing this since I was 19 years old. I'm going to be 66 this year. So it's like, really, this is all I have done my entire adult life. I love every minute. And that's why, because the oxytocin, that's where I get that's my drug of choice. Like I live and die on this birth energy, this birth fumes. And most of us that do this work are called to do this work for those reasons. It's almost not even a choice. It just shows up. So I am very keen to share, given what we've seen today, just to even just unpack some of the things that have just become apparent as Brian and Benita have shared their work and told the stories of their subjects. I want us to keep in mind midwifery is not a new or a trendy thing. Doula is neither a new or a trendy thing. Since we have been human beings, women have supported other women in birth. How did we get to have this many people on this planet if it wasn't for essentially midwifery? This is one of the oldest, if not the oldest professions ever, right? And around the world, the majority of countries, the majority of cultures, the majority of peoples still to this day depend on midwives and midwifery to be born. This is the only country, and I've only been here 34 years, still struggling to get rid of this accent, you might notice. But I've been here this long, and I've yet to understand what on earth happened, because America was also delivered by midwives. It was the African midwives that were brought to America during enslavement. It was the African midwives whose skills built the commodity that was human chattel that built this country. It was the indigenous midwives who were already here doing the same thing, taking care of people, making sure that wherever possible they could get earthside. There were complications, of course, because that is obstetrics. That's what can happen. But the years of work, training, and apprenticeships that happened as midwifery was handed down empirically, generation after generation after generation. And so in the United States, the Black midwives, the African midwives, the so-called granny midwives of the South, the indigenous midwives, and the immigrant midwives. Immigrant communities brought their midwives with them. But everybody had a baby at home. Everybody had a home birth. And for many situations, there wasn't anywhere else or anything else to do. But you really need to recognize the success of midwives in all situations, all demographics, rural, urban, wherever midwives were, for the majority of the cases, they prevailed. They built a system of healthcare where there was no system, and they always have. So during the mid-century, and as the institution of medicine and physicians took over, essentially monopolized birth, moved the women out of the homes and into the hospitals, began to be able to be reimbursed or to bill for their services. Medicaid and so on showed up. As we've gone through each decade, we have made a situation that has got no reflection on what historically women have done during birth. So we saw in the photos how the women giving birth were supported by other people who were there for them for that specific need of having that helping hand to keep everything safe and to make sure that they came out the other end. The questions that you raised as far as like what happened and the processes, each of those processes are also related to how people see themselves, how much safety they feel, how much autonomy they feel, how much power they feel, and who is surrounding them to support them in that. And then you spoke about the postpartum period, in one case a hemorrhage, in another case depression. The postpartum period historically has always been taken care of, again, by the community women, by the families in the home environment. Many cultures to this day, postpartum lasts 6 weeks, 4 weeks. Don't get out of that bed. We're going to feed you. We're going to take care of this baby with you. We are the only country in the United States that, and westernized countries now more, where postpartum is 2 days, get out of here. Take your baby and go home. A whole week of, you should be fine. Why are you still in bed? Why are you in pajamas? The pressures and the modern ways, the lack of the extended family, the lack of those inbuilt supports that have been around for centuries, millennia. In the absence of those, we have lost the safety that was already built in, baked into literally a normal human event: pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. So what the photos do is they capture these elements, even in different circumstances. Inside of a hospital environment, Brian captured the importance and the relevance of the support, but also the listening. When she said, "Leave me alone," that was what happened. She got her space, but she had enough power and sense of autonomy to ask for it or to demand it even, and it was respected. So these awful statistics that we hear about that people have a hard time understanding, and some of those questions that were raised were, how could this be? What does this mean? These statistics speak to how deeply flawed and how broken childbearing is in the United States in these days. And I'm going to layer something else on top. It's not just that the system is broken, and the example of Serena is really a powerful example of how broken, but the other piece that's really important for us to understand is that we have added interventions and ways that have layered on things that now have become preventable, but we've actually caused them to be problematic because of how we've decided obstetrics should be managed. When we look at midwifery, midwifery had one purpose and still does, and that is to center mother-baby, to center mother-baby family. And in most cases, centering the community and supporting the community because the community has the resources. They are their own best resource. So you see movements such as the doula movement growing, where people are now training and assisting in the birthing time by providing this unimpeded support, this listening, this respect, making sure dignity is maintained. These are the soft skills that have turned these disparities around. Where the doulas are employed, where the doulas are in play, you don't see those outcomes that you see in those disparities. And Black women and brown women, Indigenous women are dying at such a rate in the most developed country in the world. We have a problem. This is not about we don't have the resources. This is not the same thing as rural and developing nations that have no resources. We have everything we need. In fact, to the point that this is the most expensive hospitalization and care that you could pay for. So the midwives, once they have been eradicated, because that's exactly what happened, it was political, it was purposeful. Midwives were moved out so the obstetricians could move in. And now the few midwives that we have, around about 10% of births in the US are by midwife births, are taken care of by midwives. That means 90% of people are having obstetrics, obstetricians, hospitals, and being literally abandoned in the postpartum as normal ways to manage childbirth. When you look at the process of birth, and we saw glimpses, like I say, just from still photographs. This wasn't even video. It speaks to the power of what's present from the beginning of a pregnancy all the way through and out the other end. What's present is love. What's present is oxytocin. What's present is our human capacity to be there for each other. And that's what the midwives did. That's what the doulas are doing now. And that's what was captured in this really beautiful series of pictures. I was blessed in 2017 when an Italian filmmaker contacted me. His name is Paolo Petruno, just brilliant guy, and said, I want to come to the US and I want to follow Black midwives and I want to document midwives. I've been documenting in Africa, and I've been working in very, dire areas where maternal mortality and morbidity is a big problem. But I want to see why there's a similar problem in America. Can I come? And I said, yes, please. He came unsupported. He did this out of his own heart. And he did a documentary film. It's on YouTube. You can find it. It's called The American Dream. And Paolo Petruno captured the stories of four women that are a part of our practice here in Orlando. I have a birthing center, midwifery practice, a midwifery training school. We train community midwives and doulas. And we also do outreach clinics for people who can't find prenatal care, postpartum care. We do clinics in English and in Spanish. And when Paolo came, he captured so beautifully the stories of four of the women. He followed them. We had a young teenager. We had same situation, like cross-section of women, very highly educated person. We had Latina. We just looked at these different women and their stories, but they were all able to share that as far as they were concerned, they were being cheated of the American dream. And so thinking about the importance of midwifery, the reasons why we fight for more midwives to be available. We run our nonprofit from the perspective of no one is turned away if they present for care, because we're looking at this from a historical space, from a cultural space, even from an anthropological space, sociological, you name it. This crosses all of these areas. And this is also our, I believe, last chance at getting it right. One thing that equals all of us, that gets us all leveled out, is every last one of us came from somebody's uterus. We all have a mother. So I'm happy to answer questions. I want to say thank you so much to the doulas. I see you, Benita. I see you, Doreen. Just thank you for what you're doing. And this is the area of growth that we see. We see more doulas than midwives currently. We want to keep seeing the growth of both professions. We want to see the return of support, love, and care around maternity and childbearing. And we want to make sure that we go back to that space where everybody has the same opportunity, the same start in life, the same chance to grow their families and to thrive. So let me stop talking. I'm not sure if I've gone past my time, but be happy to answer questions. Thank you all for inviting me to this wonderful event too.
Yeah, thank you. That was an amazing presentation of the both the history and the current state of birthing in America.
That's great insight.
I encourage questions. You can put them in the chat. You can raise your hand, or if you want, you could just unmute yourself and go ahead.
Hi, can I go?
Please. Yeah.
Oh, hi, my name is Nancy and I'm in Chicago. And we have a doula agency, a non-for-profit doula agency. We do charge a fee for service, but the majority of our families that we support are marginalized, and we just do the service for free. We do labor support, postpartum support. I'm the lactation consultant. After everyone delivers with us, I go do an in-home lactation visit with them to make sure the Black and brown women are breastfeeding, that they're not giving up.
Right.
We do abortion support, we do fertility support. Jennie, I am a huge fan of yours. I have looked at the American Dream. We even show it. We have a training class too. We're a birth justice doula agency and training academy, and we show parts of American Dream in our class just to show how sacred birth is and how special and how beautiful it can be. I follow Charles Johnson for Kira for Moms. Very empowering young man that is doing so much to make sure that his wife's name stays alive and that other women, Black and brown women, are helped. This is just so needed. We have over 50 doulas in our agency and so many training, and then they go on to be midwives, which is great. We want us to be a stepping stone. We want them to go on, and what you're doing and what you have done with your school in Florida is amazing. What we're doing, I mean, everybody keeps cheering us on, but it's like, it's hard work, but the The doulas that we hire, they know that they cannot make much money with us because we survive on grants and donations, but their passion is what, when we interview them, it's got to be about the passion. It's got to be helping marginalized communities. It's got to be the real work. You can't be, you just can't be a punk. You have to love what you do. Yeah. So thank you, Jennie, for everything you do. It's amazing. And you're an inspiration.
Well, thank you. And what's so important to share is just, like you say, folk are just coming out doing this from a place of heart, from a calling, from even just being compelled to step into this awful breach, right?
Mm-hmm.
So where we have power, it's in lifting up community members who want to serve in these areas, right? To support the young women, the women from the communities that they will go back to support when they are finished with their trainings. But you're right, this is a pipeline, not only to midwifery, but to nursing, to medicine, social
Mm-hmm.
work. Folk are going on and getting masters and degrees in public health, anthropology.
Yes.
This is the baseline. And the
Mm-hmm.
knowledge that you pick up, whether or not, like Benita, she may not be running out to births at 3 o'clock in the morning, but the knowledge she has, and we keep sharing that knowledge out, is supporting other people. So the little pieces, everything that we can do towards changing these outrageous and egregious outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
There is no reason
Absolutely.
we're losing people in this country. None whatsoever. And Brian, your story, when you mentioned the hemorrhage, I thought immediately, I wonder if she would have been as safe if she did not have a provider of color. To see the Black midwife there attending this Black woman, there's a
Mm-hmm.
layer of safety that's built in right there just because of that dynamic. We need more diversity in our providers. We need that they are safe and that they also get supported doing this work. And we need to recognize this is a matter of life and death.
Yeah, that was quite interesting because I think
Mm-hmm.
3 other medical team members came in to help support the hemorrhaging that occurred. So yes, having the Black midwife there was very important, and the doula, all important for the care. And I think health providers are realizing, at least they were realizing how important it is when women speak out in general, and Black women, hey, I'm hurting, I need your help. And
Yes.
like Benita said, yeah, what Serena Williams went through was it just kind of blew my mind that the doctors weren't listening to her of all people.
And
Yeah.
that tells you that celebrity, money, good insurance, none of those things are protective when the problems are stemming from ultimately racism, classism,
Mm-hmm.
discrimination. Those are the root causes of these preventable harms.
Mm-hmm.
And even though that's hard to hear, once we recognize that, we have more power to address it. You should not have to ask permission to save your own life. This is America.
It
Not only
was.
that, you shouldn't even be asked permission to be heard because Black women are not seen, valued, and heard. We're always saying if you're a Black woman, you need a Black provider because you're not going to be, your safety is not guaranteed.
That's right.
So we do have Black midwives in Chicago. We have a Southside Birth Center that is being put up by a Black woman, and we have a lot of Black student midwives. The movement is here. Chicago's doing a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah, other questions? Put them in the chat, raise your hand, or just unmute yourself. I would just like to comment that all of this could be extracted or extrapolated to the entire healthcare system in America.
Absolutely.
Yeah, how it's become completely monetized and
I was going to make a comment, if I could, a question.
yeah, we
Yes.
see you, we hear you. Go ahead, Betty.
I actually did a series on home births in Florida, in Daytona,
Oh,
in 2000 with Karen Kennedy.
yes. Karen was oh my gosh.
I have never done anything with that work, unfortunately. It's beautiful work. I had to do it with film, so it was really hard with the lighting at home. but I did 6 families of young to old, Hispanic, Black. It's not going to be, I now live in Mississippi. I have not kept up with what's happened with midwives. But recently, Mississippi, the Museum of Art here, wants to show that project. So I need to kind of update myself. And I would hope that you might work with me a little bit on.
Absolutely. If you could reach out, I mean, I would love, and Karen is still here locally. I'm very close to Karen. She's retired now, but she was my student in 1995. She was one of my students in my midwifery school, and did amazing work in the Daytona area in Volusia County. She held it down for a good long while. Wow. Yes, please. I'll put my email in the chat.
Thank you. I really would like to get back in touch. I have been in touch with Karen.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So, but that's happening in June. So I would hope that we can get a little more conjecture, something to shape that. So in Mississippi, maybe we can actually get a story about what's happening to midwifery here and that kind of thing, and around the world probably, and just make it a little bit more of an awareness issue if we can show this work.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for your presentation. It was really very, very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hello, this is Doreen. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, great. Thank you to Benita and Brian for the amazing photos. Mama Joseph, I can't thank you enough for your leadership in this field and the work that you have done to support the work that we do at Birth Sisters of Charlottesville. I did want to provide a little bit more of an explanation on the difference between a doula and a community-based doula. Basically, a doula is an advocate, a support person, somebody who will advocate for you, who will provide you and educate you on comfort measures. A community-based doula does all of that, but we also deal with circumstances that our clients tend to experience on top of their pregnancy. And I'm talking things like homelessness, CPS issues where the child may be taken away, domestic violence, financial issues. And so we train our doulas to know how to be with our clients as they're navigating those things on top of their pregnancy. And in many instances, our doulas have shared lived experiences of the people that they're working with. So there's conversations sometimes that don't even have to be had because we already understand. And I think that's one of the blessings of a community-based doula in supporting mothers, and why some of our outcomes are so much better than which you might see across the country and even the state. There's a sense of when our doulas work with us, they feel like they're working with a family member almost, that they can just simply relax and know that they don't have to be on. Like sometimes when they're going into a hospital or when they're going to a doctor's visit, there's a sense that they have to be on, which also contributes to high blood pressure, all those things. So there's just a sense of relaxing. There's a sense of just like, I'm comfortable. Our location is a house. It's not a social services setting. It's not a clinical setting. It's a home. And so when they come, they're sitting on the sofa and we're having our visit in that manner. So there's a real difference between a traditional doula, what most people understand as a doula in this country, and a community-based doula. So I just wanted to share that piece, and thank you all for having this program.
Thank you so much, Doreen.
Thank you, Benita.
Yeah. And I'll
Thank
mention
you.
too what Beyonce experienced was her blood pressure went up. Eclampsia, I believe is what it's called. And this is with her, not with Blue, but I think the twins. And
The twins.
again, no one believed her. And she had the whole wing in the New York hospital.
Yes, the whole wing, the whole floor.
The
Yes.
whole wing.
Yes.
So
I see a
She has a
question.
wing in New York Hospital. It's named
the baby.
Pardon?
She had the baby. They had to block off a wing of the hospital
Oh.
for security. Security. That was my poor attempt at a joke.
I see a question in the chat about Serena's experience and the embolism, what would have happened had she had a home birth with the midwife. And one of the things that is really normal and understood around the rest of the world as far as midwifery is that midwifery manages normal and only normal. There's a scope of practice. So it's like, for example, a pediatrician manages children. That's their area of expertise, and that's what they do. Cardiology does heart. So midwifery is the practice of normal care for normal childbearing people. And when they have anything that goes outside of normal, midwifery is a collaborative profession and collaborates with OBGYNs, except for in America, right? So in America, the OBGYNs and the hospitals typically don't want that collaboration. In fact, they really work hard sometimes to make sure midwives don't get access to the support for their clients that they need. So if somebody is having a home birth experiences a complication, they need to be moved over to the hospital to have the higher level care that's available at said hospital. For example, Brian's client, she wanted the epidural. She could have only got that at the hospital. So if she had started laboring at home and decided she wanted an epidural, she'd have to go to the hospital to get the epidural. Serena had her complaint for days inside of the hospital and was ignored for days and almost died because of being ignored. She was already in the so-called safest place she could be. So that helps us understand that it's not about the building. Unfortunately, it seems like it might be about the provider, because when each provider operates in their own scope, all of it is safe because it's supposed to work that way. So that's something to keep in mind. Home birth with midwives who are experienced and midwives who have a plan of action in case something should happen are safe providers too if you're low risk. And if you become complicated, then you are essentially not eligible for midwifery care and you move over to the care of OB providers who are going to give you a high level, high risk type of care. So I just want to leave you all with something that might be helpful in terms of what can you do, right? So I have this thing, I call it the ABCs, and it's really easy because with this campaign, we're working on trying to empower community members, everyday folk, with things they can do. And the simplest thing to do, whether you're a layperson, whether you're called to this profession, whether you have a mother, care about mothers or whatever, ABC. A stands for ask. Just ask. How are you? You okay? How's it going? You doing all right? And shut up and listen. Let people tell you when you ask the question. Zip it. Because most likely no one else is listening. So right there, you could meet someone in the grocery store and ask, hey, how's everything? You doing okay? And let them tell you. A stands for ask. Just ask. Be in the conversation. B is for birth, right? If they've had the baby, hey, how was your birth? Are you ready to talk about it yet? How can you share? Was it okay? Are you all right? Or they're about to have the baby or they're coming up in the pregnancy. Are you ready for birth? Have you thought about your birth plan? Who's going to be with you? Where are you going? Encourage questions around the birth. But the C stands for care. ABC. Ask, birth, care. Here's a simple question we can all ask somebody that we are engaging, somebody who's pregnant or postpartum. Who cares for you? Do your healthcare providers care? Are you feeling cared for? Tell us about the care. Was it good? Did you get what you were looking for? Are you feeling strong, empowered? Open the question from the care perspective and let them talk again. You don't have to fix anything. You don't have to heal anything. That's not yours. They, in getting it out and being heard, begin their healing. Any one of us, you don't need a training for that. You can just be there in that space, hold space, like Benita says. That will go a long way. We are on a long road here. This is a movement. This is not going to happen in this generation. We got a lot of work to do to recalibrate the balance and the safety and the support that goes with birth. Ask birth care. That way you can really be part of this movement, be in action, and lend a hand. We've got to take care of each other. So that's where I would love to just finish up for tonight.
Jenny, you just said if you're walking down the aisle of the supermarket and you see a pregnant woman, you ask how she's doing? A perfect stranger?
Yeah,
Okay.
perfect stranger. Congrats. How you doing? You okay, sis? I mean, how hard is that?
That's
You know, I noticed that, I mean, it was a while back, but when I was pregnant, people would just come up to me and just start talking to me about my pregnancy. You know, I was kind of surprised.
Well, it can be intrusive too. Some people don't want that. But what typically happens is they got their hand on your belly like they know you. That's not the same thing, right? How many people poke around at pregnant people like they have some right to be on their body like that? No, I'm not talking about that. But just a nod, just a smile, and hey, you okay? How you doing? Bring the oxytocin. You got to figure a way.
Well, what fantastic closing remarks, Jenny, and for a great presentation, everybody.
Thank
Thank everybody for being here tonight. So we've got 9 more panels coming up this spring. Please consider attending these other panels. And this panel is being recorded, and we'll let everybody who signed up know when it's available. So you can watch it. Actually, many more people have signed up who aren't here, so hopefully they'll be able to watch the video more and able to be with us tonight. So thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Brian. And thank you.
Good work, Benita.
I always want to say your name differently, Benita. I'm sorry. Thank you, Benita. All right.
Yeah,
bye, everybody.
Good work, Benita.
Bye.
Good work, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
All right,
Bye-bye.
Thank you.